Hey, Fear Minimalist, it's Sophia Lark of thefearminimalist.com, helping women of color heal the fear-based emotional cycle that keeps them stuck in mother wound trauma. In trauma treatment, there's often, historically, there's often been little focus on a very critical component that makes recovery challenging for people with the mother wound, and that's shame. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the impact of shame on the recovery process and what you can do to start turning that around. So make sure you keep watching. If this is your first time joining me today, thank you so much for being here. I always appreciate when I have new people come to my channel, and I love when you drop your comments to let me know that this has resonated with you in some way. And if you're new and if this content ends up resonating with you, I want to encourage you to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you'll get all of the latest updates when I upload new content every single week. In healing developmental and attachment trauma, which often serves as the foundation for mother wound trauma and other complex traumas, it is essential to understand the depth of shame and also loss and their connection to the traumatic experience. So it's not just about healing or resolving the fear-based responses in our body. Those responses that tell us we're not safe, or that something's wrong, or we can't trust other people, or the world is a dangerous place. It's not just about extinguishing those fear-based responses. It's also about modifying the way that we see ourselves because of what happened to us, so that our perspective doesn't continue to serve as a source of shame. And so shame is inextricably linked to fear. Fear sort of serves as this core base for how we respond to situations that make us feel unsafe or uncomfortable. But shame is an extension of that fear, in the sense that we still feel this threat to our survival, but it is more in the form of the rejection of ourselves, or a negative perception of ourselves, or our sense that other people will reject us or think negatively about us. You may view yourself as inferior because you see yourself as weak, or not having the ability, you're not good enough or strong enough or smart enough to accomplish something, or that you didn't have the strength enough to fight back, to protect yourself, to stop something from happening. You froze, so you feel less than, right? Or there may be a view of yourself, or the perception that other people are viewing you as bad, as something that is tainted. The bad thing that happened to you becomes, it happened because I'm bad, right? Or there might be a view of yourself as erased. I'm not my own person. I don't have my own identity. I am just the object to be manipulated by somebody who has their own, who wants to meet their own desires and their own whims, right? And so that's how shame looks when we're uncovering the root of our pain in terms of trauma. As a child, you absorbed these experiences into as a part of your identity because you were not developmentally mature enough to separate what happened to you and how you felt about it from who you really were, or who you really are. You will have been who you've been independent of what happened to you. You always have been. But what trauma does is it serves as this very unfortunate cloak that covers up your true identity by splitting you up into all these different parts so that you become unrecognizable. And it's only when you start doing the integrative work to put the pieces of the puzzle back together, or even together for the first time, that you begin to see, this is who I really am. Trauma had me stuck on this one piece this ongoing reality, this ongoing story. I was just looping on that one piece. It could have been, the first 20 years of my life. But that seems to be where the story stopped. Now, in reality, the story didn't stop there. But that's what trauma makes it seem like. And so how shame works is that even though you can know cognitively in your mind that the person who abused you deserves the blame, that doesn't mean that automatically you're going to stop feeling shame or that you're going to absolve yourself of the blame. Some people do blame themselves. That's why, in my practice, when people say, well, I know that I'm not responsible, but why do I still feel the way that I feel? The reason why shame is resistant to change in a lot of cases is because this is an entrenched experience. Mind, body, and spirit, if you believe in spirit. This is a deeply entrenched way of life. And so just because you can come to an aha moment about something and say, but they were at fault, that doesn't mean the shame and the blame is going to leave your body. And so doing the work, because the reason why is because you have acquiesced to somebody else's wishes and desires and their demands over this extended period of your life from which it was not easy to escape or it was unavoidable. You could not escape. And that kind of day-to-day in and out interaction of living like that creates a particular programming that is hard to dismantle, that is hard to reprogram, because often within that is trauma bonding. And there's a lot of dysfunctionality there that you have to unravel. So that's why you can know that it was their fault. I didn't have any part in this in terms of what I need to be responsible for. But you can know that and still feel shame. You can know that and still blame yourself. Because it's an entrenched experience that you have to work to dismantle. One of the basic ways to begin chipping away at this shame narrative that undergirds the way that you see yourself, the world, and other people is to begin with a foundational self-care skill set, to begin building a self-care skill set. Because one of the components, one of the sort of fuels of shame is secrecy and being paralyzed by not being able to create your own identity, create your own life, create the life that you want. A sense of agency dismantles shame. And when you build a self-care skill set, that creates a sense of agency. This agency of creating the life that you desire, or the life that is more in alignment with who you really are. When you start taking control of your life, and it's not this, I'm living according to whoever said what and what my upbringing was and what that indoctrination was. But now I am starting to take down those walls and those barriers through me doing my own acting towards the destiny that I desire. Building a self-care skill set can be simple. For some people, it's just about telling the story, writing the story down. But I think one of the things that makes it stronger, the build up to telling that story, is you start creating this agency by doing. Sometimes we have to get our bodies moving. So one of the first things I say is to pick something. It could be anything. Pick one thing that you can do every week, once a week, to improve your health. It could be your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health. It could be all of them together. Pick that one thing. What comes to mind for me right now is me picking drinking more water. I wanted to meet the goal of drinking 84 ounces of water a week, not a day, a week. So that would equate to a water bottle right here. And this is 16.9 fluid ounces. And that's what it equates to, drinking one of these a day. One of these is about 8.5 glasses of water a day. Now, obviously, we know the number that's always thrown out there. Drink 64 ounces of water a day. I don't know if that's ever going to happen for me. It might, but you have to start small. So pick that one thing. And then the next thing to do is to schedule it. Schedule it. Put it in your phone, your calendar, your planner, however you schedule that. Schedule it with reminders. And so when that reminder goes off, however it is, for me, it's my phone. My alarm goes off. I get to it. So in small, consistent chunks, or you take these small, consistent actions toward achieving the ultimate goal. So what actions do I perform to make sure that I drink my 84 ounces of water a week? How I started doing it was I did some basic calculations, and I said, okay, that bottle of water is 16.9 ounces. And so that means that's about the equivalent of 2 8-ounce glasses of water, a little bit more than 8 ounces. And so what I did is I went to the store and I bought these little plastic Chinette cups, and they're about 9 ounces. And when I would schedule to drink my water and my timer would go off, I would pour half of the bottle of water into one of those cups, and I would either down it or I would sip on it for however long I needed to until the water was all gone. And I started doing that consistently. And so now I'm up to 2 bottles a day. So that's the equivalent of about four glasses of water. Still not at my goal, but halfway there, right? If it's 8 8-ounce glasses of water, then I'm halfway there. But that's really how I broke it down into these small, manageable chunks. I didn't try to just start drinking 4 of those 16.9 ounce bottles of water a day. I would have failed. And I've had so many experiences of trying to do something and just falling flat on my face because I was too ambitious. My ambition was much greater than my ability to carry out the task, right? And that doesn't mean that you can't work up to it. That's exactly what I'm doing. And so that's why I said break it down into manageable chunks. And then once you schedule it, you want to track it. Or you schedule it and you break it down into those chunks and you start doing it, you want to track it. Now, in last week's video, I gave you guys access to my feelings tracker. And I actually used that to track some of my goals. So it's not just about tracking my feeling or what happened to me and how I felt about it, but you can also track if you met a particular goal, because you can start with that trigger. The trigger was my alarm went off and it was time. I knew it was time for me to drink my water. And so I felt some kind of way about it. Maybe I was, I don't want to do it. But the scale of the feeling was, maybe a 4 or 5. I wasn't too excited about it, but, I was excited enough to go ahead and carry through or follow through with the action. And then the length of the trigger, that didn't last very long, just 5 minutes. I drank my water, I got it over with. I wasn't going to complain about it. And, the thoughts I had about it, hey, just do it, You want to change your life or what? And the behavior, I did it. So I use that. And then the last step is share your story. Share your story with a healthy, reliable person, or what Brene Brown says, a person who has earned the right to hear your story. So this is not the time to just share this with anybody because they're available. You know, we're talking about building healthy relationships and dismantling the dysfunctionality that happened as a result of relational trauma. And so obviously you want to, if we're trying to improve our lives with healthy relationships, then we want to be able to share our stories with people who can hold that space for us. So that's the important part about sharing the story. You share this piece of your story, you're witnessed and you're validated in your sharing, and then the support person can also help you to celebrate your hard-won victory. You begin to move from a sense of shame to honor. I honor my success in being able to achieve something that was hard to do. That's been hard to do. And so all of those things coalesce for you to dismantle this shame narrative around your life experience. The more you work through this, the more advanced your skill set will become. And before you know it, you'll start talking back to that inner critic. And you'll be able to say, yeah, you know what? I don't want to hear it. Goodbye. You are of no importance to me, inner critic. I don't want to hear from you. Thank you, though, for trying to chime in, but that doesn't work anymore. So now you know why shame can be hard to dismantle, but you also have a process that you can use to help you start chipping away at those shame narratives. And to get more practice with doing so, be sure to download my feelings tracker that will help you to sort of get a visual of your progress toward chipping away at those shame narratives until they're reduced to almost nothing. I want to invite you also to connect with me on social media. I'm at Instagram at Fear Minimalist, at Twitter at Fear Minimalist, and also Facebook at Fear Minimalist, where we can carry on an in-depth conversation. If you guys like, just DM me and I'd be happy to go back and forth with you guys on this conversation about healing the mother wound and other interpersonal traumas. All right, that'll do it for today. Thank you so much for being here. Guys, if you liked this video, hit the like button below, share with your friends, drop a comment to let me know what you took away from today's episode. I would like to know your comments. And also be sure to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell so that you'll never miss a video when I upload new content every single week. And remember that the sun is going to rise and shine bright tomorrow. The question is, are you going to rise with it and allow your best self to shine? I hope you do, and I will see you next time. Have a good day.